So, it's been some time, hasn't it? 2.5 years since Keiji Inafune's kickstarted, mismanaged masterpiece Mighty Number 9 finally released. If you remember, I did a video on the game very shortly after it came out. I want to say it took me 5 days from release to get that video out. I could work fast back then. And I didn't quite agree with the general opinion. You talk to people, you just generally hear oh, the game is shit. That's the only thing you will ever hear about it. It's a garbage game that should not exist. Keiji Inafune is a con artist. You will hear all of that. I said I liked it. I have my problems with it, which is why I made a second video on 10 things they could improve for a sequel, which I would still love to happen, by the way. But I liked it in the end. I thought it was a not quite classic Mega Man, but close enough to the style I enjoyed with enough new things that I thought were interesting, some good little ideas that were in there, some fun level design, some cool weapons, fun little story with, again, some good ideas. It was just marred by extremely poor technical performance, exacerbated by the fact that I played the Wii U version of the game, some kind of bad ideas, very poor presentation, and what was the last thing? Yeah, and some bad level design. So it wasn't a perfect game, 6 out of 10 probably, I'd say, but I liked it, and that's about all I could say. But times have changed. It's not like people have gone back and rediscovered the game and thought okay, maybe we were too harsh on it the first time. I hope that happens someday, but I don't think it will. But times have changed since then. The sting is no longer as harsh, and Mega Man 11 exists. So we have a new style, actual classic Mega Man game without any Inafune involvement to compare Mighty Number 9 to. And if you may remember from my video on Mega Man 11, I wasn't especially fond of it. I liked it, but I think I said that while Mega Man 11 is the better game, I liked Mighty Number 9 more because it had less to prove. Maybe it had more to prove, but it had less expectations, and maybe less to prove because it wasn't part of an established franchise. So, Thanksgiving break just ended. I was home with my Wii U, and I figured after Mega Man 11, now would be as good a time as any to replay the game. I haven't played it since I recorded for the review, which was my second playthrough of the game. Again, within 5 days of release, I beat that game once to play it. I beat it again to record it. I scripted, recorded, and edited a review. I also used that footage to edit a Let's Play that never happened. I joined a live stream of the game that is probably does not exist anymore. So within a week of that game being out, I was burned out on it. So I haven't played it since close to its release in May, I want to say, May or June 2016. I figured now is as good a time as any to go back to it after Mega Man 11 and see what I thought. And whether or not any of my opinions changed. And honestly, no, not really. Does the game really have an excuse for its poor quality? Or whatever poor quality I think it has? Not really. They raised enough money that they could have made a better game. Technical issues absolutely should not have been there. Those handheld versions are still not out, by the way. And I guarantee you are never coming out. The cutscene presentation should have been better, mouth movements, alright? That's all I'm asking for, generic animations, static camera angles with a little bit of movement. Those don't really bother me. Just mouth movement. That's all I needed. For God's sakes. I don't know why that was so hard. Just textures, all I needed. Performance is still plenty bad. The load times did bother me a bit more than they did originally. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little less patient than I was. But yeah, those load times are too long. They're not offensively long, but they're too long for what's actually happening. The voice acting is still sometimes okay. I will never be angry at Steve Bloom. Man, that man's voice is just beautiful, and he's plenty good as Shade. And I think enough of the actors kind of just ham it up enough. But then you have someone like Pyro, whose voice is just completely different between when he's he's corrupted, and then when he's normal, that I honestly can't believe it's Matt Mercer both times. Who it is actually Matt Mercer, by the way. Call's level is still pretty boring. And the simple fact that I actually think the final boss is worse than when I first played it, because first time I could blame it on us, and the game is new, I didn't know weapon weaknesses, I was just figuring it out for myself. I probably did it wrong, had a harder time. That's what I figured. This time I knew the weakness, went in with that. Yeah, I still had just as hard a time. Like, I didn't have to destroy my hands mashing with Brand's weapon, but I did still have to. I still took a lot of damage to the point that I still can't beat that final boss without a health refill item, which if you don't beat the final stage in one try, then you have to hope that patch gives you one when you die. Doesn't always happen. So either way, I do still have my problems with the game, but in terms of things I like, I still think a lot of the level design is pretty fun. You know, I still think if you're using weapons correctly, which I usually don't, I'm a Buster man through and through, I think a lot of the level designs are challenging, interesting, make good use of the mechanics. You could probably speedrun the game very well. I watched a speedrun, I want to say last year, of a guy beating the game on the hardest difficulty, which is you can't get hit or you die instantly. So I saw a speedrun of that, so I know it can happen. I'd be interested in maybe seeing another one, a more recent one. Probably be better to speedrun the game if it ran at a consistent frame rate, but whatever. It doesn't exactly play like classic Mega Man. You know, you are supposed to go faster. You are supposed to. It is built with a more speedrun mentality in mind. So you do have to take that in mind, which, I mean, frankly, I understand it was billed as the return of classic Mega Man, but if you were expecting it to play exactly like classic Mega Man, then that's really more your fault, because this is Mighty Number 9 and not Mega Man. I think a lot of the boss fights are still pretty fun. For the most part, Mick is still kind of a pain. Some of it probably is a little my fault, but kind of is. I died a lot on his stage on this visit, which is good because he's the first guy I like to go after. But I think there's still plenty of good ideas, you know. In terms of story aspects, I like the fact that they really play up the fact that the Mighty Numbers are all siblings and that Beck is there to help them, so they have a small conversation beforehand. It's very powered up in its nature. And the fact that they'll all help each other after the fights are over. I love the relationship that they all have about puns. Like, Cryo is well known as the pun master to the point where Shade has to tell her off in the Robot Factory level. It's like, maybe if you spent more time fighting instead of focusing on your puns. Then there's the Dinah has a pun at one point and says, like, hey, thank Cryo for that one, after she says it. Then Avi has one where he's like, oh, that's good, I should tell Cryo that one. Like, I love this, like, tightly knit sibling relationship, just all based on puns. Like, it's funny, all right? It really is. Brand is just cool. Like, you cannot deny Brand is awesome. Just uses a sword, is actively resisting the corruption, fights very honorably. Like, he's probably most people's favorite. Shade also purely because of Steve Bloom's voice. Strictly on that. I like the idea that they help each other in the stages, besides the fact that it just gives you a hint on the stage select screen, like, hey, there's the weakness. You don't have to guess. Like, I've never liked that about Mega Man games. You know, go through a stage, maybe get a couple game over, so you have to start over. You get to the boss, and then you find out, oh, never mind, I don't have their weakness, I can't beat them. I've never enjoyed that, which is why anytime I play Mega Man, I'm just like, just give me a walkthrough. Just tell me the boss order. I don't need to know anything beyond that. Just tell me, like, okay, do this boss first. They're weak to this weapon. They're weak to this weapon. They're weak to this weapon. That's all I need. I'm willing to figure out fortress bosses by myself. Strategies by myself, stages by myself. It's just the weaknesses that bother me. So I like the fact that Mighty Number 9 gives you the indication on the stage select screen, much like the Power Fighters, the arcade game, Mega Man 2, the Power Fighters, which is a very fun game. It's very similar in that nature, and it's just a little saves me time kind of thing that I very much enjoy. I do kind of wish that they helped out during boss fights, and the fact that some of them are literally worthless, like Brand in Dinah stage takes out enemies that can't hurt you because they're purely cosmetic foreground elements. Like, some of them are much worse than others. Like, Pyro has a good one in Cryo stage where it's just this part of the stage is covered in ice, so he melts it. So now you don't have to worry about ice physics anymore. More could have been done with it, but I think what was there was decently good. Again, I like a lot of the boss fights because they are very pattern-based and reactionary. Very much the way what Intercreates is known for, where even if I'm not quite good enough to do it, I look at them and I see, in most cases at least, I look at them and I see, okay, if I spent the time to learn their patterns, I memorized all their attacks, I had some quicker reflexes, I could beat all these bosses without taking damage. Like, it's a very visual, instinctual thing, and I like that a lot. It was something else I also really enjoyed about the Gunvolt games. That I just feel like, okay, I see how you can do this as an expert. And that's really cool. My only problem with the boss fights, besides the fact that some of them have instant kill abilities, is the simple fact that, the fact that you have to, I don't mind the fact that you have to periodically absorb them to permanently take off their health. But the fact that when they get to that state, they can be in a place where you can't hit them. So then they just have the free reign to regenerate that health. That annoys me. I think that when you deal enough damage that they can be absorbed, they should be like temporarily stunned, fall to the ground. And maybe it doesn't last long, but it interrupts their attacks, knocks them to the ground, and gives you a chance to absorb them. Maybe like they fall, bounce, and then are immediately back in their pattern. But it gives you a chance at least, and that I think works. The weapons are, I don't know exactly how much you would use them, but there are definitely a lot of times in the stages where especially in the later stages, where it's like, okay, you're supposed to use Shade's weapon here, you're supposed to use Pyro's weapon here, and you could probably come up with a couple extra options, but those are the ones that I thought were the most obvious. And it's just subtle enough that I think it works. And I think it's definitely telling that I do use weapons in some of the stages, because I don't tend to use weapons very often unless it's during a boss fight or it's like Mega Man 2 where I know, like, yeah, I can just use the Metal Blades nonstop. Though I did just remember something else and then I forgot it. So what was I talking about? I was talking about weapons, usage. Yeah, I don't remember. Okay. But another thing I enjoy about the weapons is the fact that they have regenerating ammo. Like, that's such a simple thing, but I enjoy it. It's like, okay, I don't have to worry about picking up ammo. I don't have to worry about energy balancers. Sometimes they can be a little slow, so I wish that there was sort of a Gunvolt-like option where I can just say, like, okay, like, I will stand still. I will make myself vulnerable. Just let me quickly regenerate my ammo. Oh, that's right. The fact that switching weapons is just totally wrong really bothers me. Like, there's no reason you should not be able to switch weapons from a pause menu. And I understand maybe they didn't have the idea then, but Mega Man 11's power wheel on the right analog stick is really the way to do it. Like, that is an excellent option. And also the fact that you have to physically shift into other forms with a press of the X button for me, when in Mega Man 11 it's just automatic, same as any other Mega Man game. That's pretty simple. There's the power-ups in stages when you absorb certain enemies, like the green ones make you go faster, yellow ones give you better defense, red makes your shots more powerful and shoot through walls. I think that the ability to shoot through walls should be a default one, because it enables you to, if there's two enemies right next to each other, you can only hit and absorb one and not get the guy behind him unless you use a special weapon. So I think that at the very least you should have the ability to charge your weapon, and like that pierces enemies so that you can get multiple of them in a row, because I do miss a charge shot. I don't miss it when I play Mega Man 9, because I guess I'm just too used to that game, but yeah, I miss it here. I like the fact that once you get to the end of the game, there's no boss rush. Like, I was actually very surprised when I got there and there was no boss rush. I'm like, oh, okay, because frankly, I'm starting to get tired of boss rushes. And I understand that at this point you kind of can't get rid of them in Mega Man, but it's just one of those things you kind of have to accept is going to be in each game, and I don't want it. So I'm happy that Mighty Number 9 didn't have it. And the story itself, I mean, it's not complex. I think the writing itself, like in conversations with the bosses, is decent, you know. It's about powered up level, which is really all I needed. They were trying something else, like there's absolutely multiple hints throughout the game that Dr. White is kind of an asshole. Like, a lot of people say Dr. White's a terrible person. I don't quite see that. Dr. White, on the other hand, yes, definitely. He's not that good. He doesn't really care about his creations, which in one instance is kind of funny when Cryo shows up in Bat Stage and she just starts freezing enemies. He's like, Cryo, I told you not to... Oh, never mind. Yeah, keep going. You're going to make for a great distraction. Like, that's kind of funny. But then once you get to the... He doesn't seem to care that much about, like, his creation, Trinity, being the one that's completely fucking everything up. There's the end of the game where he's like, I will show them all. I will prove them wrong, that I was right. And Blackwell's like, only time will tell if Mighty Number 9 is a blessing or a curse, which is obviously a very funny / sad line in retrospect. So I think they would have been going somewhere with that if there was a sequel, like slowly make him the villain, which is why I said in my review that between that idea of making the hero slowly the villain and the fact that he continued to work with Armature Studios on ReCore, I think Keiji Inafune really misses that Maverick Hunter FPS reboot, which 2.5 years later, since I don't even know if I mentioned what I thought about it in the review, but all this time later, I still want that game. Like, that game looks kind of dumb in the fact that it's Mega Man X with a Bomberman Act Zero aesthetic, but it looked fun as hell. Like, I'd play that game. I really would. Once Capcom's built up enough goodwill with the Mega Man franchise, like the Legacy collections are nice, but they don't mean much. Mega Man 11 was good. I'm pretty sure they're going to do an X9. They might do some more later. But once they built up enough goodwill, I think they should resurrect that idea. Announce a return to Mega Man Legends 3 and Maverick Hunter at the same time, just so people that are more traditional not classic Mega Man, but more traditional Mega Man series can be like, yeah, Mega Man Legends 3, and then I can be like, yeah, Maverick Hunter. I mean, I want Mega Man Legends 3 now because I've played 1 and 2, but Maverick Hunter, man, looks fun. I completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, and the other aspect that Dr. White's an asshole that I had to read on TV Tropes because I can get into this. Ray's ending. If you buy the Ray DLC or you buy a physical edition or you backed the game, as I did, you get the Ray DLC where you get a mission where you fight against her. It's a pretty fun mission. She's a very twitchy, reactionary boss that is very fun to fight. Like, I think TV Trope said, like, it's supposed to be a callback to X vs. Zero, but it's way more difficult. And I thought it was a very fun fight, not to mention, judge me however you want for this, but Ray is just a cutie and I love her. I have very odd taste in women. I have many tastes in women and most of them are odd. But you also get the ability to play as her. Since I've done the review, I've tried to go back and play as her. I beat the intro stage and I tried to play mixed stage. She is awful. I hate playing as her because she's supposed to be kind of like Zero in that she's a damaging close range fighter. They just missed the damaging part, so you have to get close to enemies with constantly draining health, and you can barely deal damage to them. You don't have combos. Like, it's like constantly doing single swings at the beginning of 0, 1, and 2. It's terrible. I hate playing as her. Maybe I was doing something wrong, but I don't feel like I was. So I didn't bother to play the rest of the game as Ray. So from what I understand in Ray's ending, Dr. White basically just does not give a shit about her. And I feel like I'm getting off track from what my topic was. The point is, I think there were seeds of good ideas planted in the story that I would have liked to see fleshed out in a sequel. I would like to see a lot of things fleshed out in the sequel. Along with less instant death. There's a lot of those, and I still cannot understand why they included instant death on spikes, even if you're in post-hit invincibility. because they fixed that after Mega Man 1 back in 87, and I have no idea why they brought it back for this game. It's like all the Sonic fans who claim that the spike bug in Sonic 1 is like an intentional part of that game. It's like if it was intentional, they wouldn't have taken it out of both every Sonic game in the future and later versions of Sonic 1. So, you're just wrong. There's the just general presentation. I already said the cutscenes are terribly presented. I mean, it really is just the mouth movement that bothers me, though. Graphics are passable, I would say. That's about the best I can give it. I see what they're going for. I can tell what's going on. It's not incredibly busy. There's enough detail in there. Like, it's not good, but I've played a lot worse and it's serviceable. Music at the same time is alright. I'm gonna be a little... In the review, I said I didn't know a thing about it because I was playing it in the summer and I had a fan running while I was playing the game, so I couldn't hear any of the music. There's also the fact that the music is just kind of quiet. I haven't really, despite the fact that I backed enough of the game to get the soundtrack, and I do have it on my phone, I've listened to it once. It's okay. It's alright. The only reason I'm a little more forgiving to it now is because Mega Man 11's soundtrack was also pretty lacking. So it's just like, this is just life now. This is just all it is. I like the fact that a lot of the bosses, I understand I am kind of jumping around here. Right now, I'm having long stretches of silence that are being cut out in editing, where I'm just thinking like, listen, I'm 20 minutes into this video. Is there anything I'm trying to say? And I'm just kind of picking anything out. I like the fact that a lot of the bosses have physical reactions to taking damage from their weaknesses, like Avi's wind weapon douses Pyro's flames, using Pyro's flame explosion, destroys all of Cryo's ice blocks, using Cryo's freeze weapon, freezes up Bat and makes him move slower. I'm trying to think. That chain there is about the best I can think of. There's the fact that using Shade's weapon is just a perfect fit for Avi because it's got that little satellite nearby that works perfectly for reflecting bullets. Actually, Avi's fight is actually a lot of fun because it's just hitting him at the right times, dodging at the right times, knowing when he's going to drop bombs, knowing when you need to hang on the ledge. Hanging on the ledge is still kind of awkward, but I thought the same thing in 04, so can't really fault this game. So at least some of the times it's good. Like, I don't bother using Dyna's weapon on Shade. He's easy enough without it. The only reason I don't go for him first is because I want Dyna to take out some of the instant death, because that stage has no checkpoints, and that I can't believe that. So yeah, that's Mighty Number 9. I think if you were to play it for the first time now, and you're not just going to be, frankly, an asshole, it's just like, yeah, I heard about what this game is. I think Keiji Inafune is a scam. I think this whole thing was a scam. Like, it absolutely was not, alright? He's just... Frankly, Keiji Inafune was used to being part of a large corporation in Capcom, and now that he was on his own, he went a little crazy, didn't have someone to reel him in. I think the exact same thing happened to Kojima. Like, have you fucking seen the trailers for Death Stranding? Like, no one is stopping that man. And he's more of a man that needs to be stopped, frankly. He needs someone to reel him in. But I guess we're going to have to wait for the reviews of Death Stranding to come out. But frankly, I'm sure mainstream gaming journalism is going to be too afraid to say anything bad about him. I'm going on a rant here, I understand, but it kind of bothers me that Keiji Inafune gets to be such a punching bag while Kojima is a pariah. He's a... what's the word I'm thinking? Not a pariah. That's a bad word. A martyr. That's what I was thinking of. I was thinking of like the YR, the TYR thing. And for some reason, all I could think of was Seder. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely not right. It'd be hilarious, but I don't think Kojima's a Seder. He became a martyr, is what I was trying to say. And despite the fact that, frankly, he is also pretty bad at managing projects. Either way, I understand I got off topic and probably pissed a couple people off. I don't care. But time has passed. The fires have kind of cooled down. There's the fact that Mighty Number 9 is not going anywhere anymore. Still a shame. I stand by that. But I take what you can get. That is what it is. And I know Intercreates is still doing stuff. They're making a new Gunvolt game. Can't wait for that, except for the fact that I'd have to buy a Switch to play it. If the rumors about Skyward Sword HD are true, then I will buy a Switch. Because I also love Skyward Sword. That puts my love of Mighty Number 9 into perspective. Yeah, I liked Skyward Sword too. Who cares? Actually, the two are connected more than I thought. Fee and Call, they're both exactly the same emotionless navigator girls, and I like them both because I frankly like that emotionless girl thing. To throw another layer on the my Tayson girls are weird, a thing that I was talking about earlier. But either way, fires have cooled. Anger at him, I'm sure it still flares up when conversation shifts to Mighty Number 9, but people don't bring it up out of context or unprompted as much anymore. So I think if you haven't played Mighty Number 9 before, and you have at least some sort of interest either... I mean, I hope it's not because I want to see how shitty this game is like I thought when I bought Sonic 06. But I hope, maybe you think, maybe I'll give it a chance. The game's a lot cheaper than it obviously was when it released. It went down in price fast. The Wii U version is the cheapest. If you have the choice, don't get the Wii U version. Get the PS4 version or Xbox One if you have the choice. But for either way, for the price it goes for now, I'd say it's worth it. It's definitely a much cheaper alternative than $30 on Mega Man 11. That game is still overpriced. But I think it's worth it. It's not a great game, but it's an okay one. It has a lot of faults, but I think it has a lot of good to it too. It could have been something. It wasn't. And I'm sad it never will be. And there's probably some people saying if you want to play Mighty Number 9 done right, you play Mighty Gunvolt Burst. I remember seeing that comparison a lot when that game came out. And I'm saying this as a fan of the original Mighty Gunvolt, a way bigger fan than I have any right to be for that game I got for free twice. But as a fan of the original Mighty Gunvolt Burst is the worst Mega Man game Intercreates has ever made. I cannot stand that game. I think the level design is terrible. I think the way they handle weapons is absolutely atrocious. And I think bosses do not take enough damage from weapons. They have no reaction to it besides the fact that the impact is green. The burst mechanic is just kind of stupid. It's just kill an enemy when you're standing next to them. Mighty Gunvolt Burst is terrible, and I hate that game. Mighty Number 9 is a better game than that, but obviously if you haven't played actual good Intercreates Mega Man games, 0, ZX, 9, 10, Gunvolt, play those first, but Mighty Number 9 was good, and I wish something could have been done with it.